The world is changing and many people are living in fear. Join me on this journey as we find new ways to love more, celebrate life, and connect with our body, mind, and our souls. Together we'll let go of fear and embrace our power. Welcome to Fearless Spirit with Tara Cridland. Hi, and welcome back. Today is part 5 of the series, and the last subject that I'm going to respond to as far as this little 5-part series, and then it'll just be me and you talking about all the things, is embodying compassionate leadership, creating ripples of change. Now, I'm going to actually take this on a totally different segue. I'm going to actually go somewhere else completely. And the reason why is what I'm finding is as people are coming online, as people are starting to realize what they are being called to do and come into leadership, what's happening is there is a lot of people going into freeze mode. I had a really powerful experience this morning, and it's so funny and not funny, but it's so true. And so I invite you to actually look at this yourself, which is every time I'm about to work with a client and they're dealing with something, there's a part of that situation that is mirroring for me that I have been working on. So today, this morning, I actually had been contacted with someone to get, they asked for a connection call. It's what I call my discovery calls, to get some help around some things. And as I'm sitting talking to my partner, and we're discussing not necessarily that person, but just some of my own things that are coming up, right? So some of my own things, to be really open and honest with you, I think is so important for us to be really vulnerable and authentic. Because what's happening in the world right now is I'm seeing this, everything is just great or it's not great. And there's either oversharing without actually healing, or there is not sharing the honest parts of what it takes to be a business owner, entrepreneur, or even just someone who's willing to do their healing work. And so what was coming up for me today was, as I was discussing this possibility of bringing in a new client, I caught myself that I was already playing on what happens when it doesn't work out, when they don't want to work with me. And so my partner, again, I've expressed this in the past, he's a really amazing hypnotherapist, timeline therapist, NLP master. And so immediately he said, wow. And I stopped and I said, okay, I just want to let you know, whatever we're talking about, whatever it is, something's being activated, because I suddenly feel really lightheaded. I had a little burning in my chest and my heart center area. And then I feel really lightheaded, like my spirit's trying to leave my body. And so he immediately stopped and said, yes. And you look like you're about to be very emotional right now. Are you feeling emotional? I said, yeah, for some reason I am. And instead of saying, what is that about? Let's analyze that. He says, okay. So take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel that area and give yourself permission that you don't have to leave. You are safe. He says, now, first thought that comes up, what's in there? And immediately I heard fraud. And I said, I feel like a fraud. And he says, is this your belief? I said, no, this was a generational belief. He said, okay, what is it that you need right now? And he says, and what are you afraid of being a fraud? And I said, not being valued, not being seen, not being honored. And he says, okay, so you want to be valued, seen, and honored. And without that, even with that, you feel like somehow you being you is a fraud. I said, yeah. And he says, okay, so let's take a deep breath. And we tuned in, and he said, you know, what I'm feeling is it's time for you to do mirror work. Now, a lot of people do mirror work, but I don't know if they really know what mirror work is. And mirror work is when you really stand in front of the mirror and you just give yourself a deep heart-to-heart conversation, as if you were talking to your very best friend or someone you deeply loved. And you let yourself express your fears and you listen to yourself, and then you talk back to them. And so I did what he asked me to do because I am so ready to heal whatever this is. And I'm telling you this because as I'm doing this work, I feel excited about making more podcast episodes. I feel excited about getting rid of my social media. I feel excited about writing newsletters and completing my online program that is almost finished. I feel excited about that. And it used to feel inside almost like a chore. And really, what was happening is these are things that I was being called to do, and my little woundings and those generational ancestral belief systems and my own trauma then is coming out and showing its little ugly head, but not really. It's not ugly, turns out. It's just wounded and needs to be loved. And so, this next level that is asking to be seen, because in this next month, a lot has been changing for me. I am now out in the public again, teaching and teaching workshops, teaching yoga again, working in a college where I am also going to be offering community classes in this realm. And as we begin to do this work and keep moving forward, those little parts of ourselves that don't believe that we are capable, that are wounded, that are still in trauma, will be sitting in there. And I use that word trauma again. I've said this in the past. That word gets thrown around a lot, but people know what it means. And really, what it means is there's a destabilization in your nervous system or your belief systems that came from sometimes not even this lifetime. And so, just being able to lovingly recognize it and lean into it and follow the resistance all the way through to the other side is so powerful. So, I sat with that, and sure enough, I'm mirroring what's happening to others as well as myself. And so what I want to talk to you about today is if you are moving into conscious leadership, whether you chose it, whether you got called into it, whether you've suddenly had an awakening, is how do you actually begin to take total and complete radical self-responsibility and ownership of it? How being in this world and doing this healing work, when you start to see a pattern, do you look and say, where am I experiencing or living this pattern myself? Can I heal it? And if not, can I get support and assistance around healing it? This starts to make it so that you become so deeply in your body that this is where decolonization work happens. This is where you begin to dismantle all the isms, right? The biases that we have against other people that look different than us, that think different than us, that are different than us in some way. And for many of you, you're living in a body where you're constantly being looked at. And for many of you, you're in a body where you're the one looking. And then unconsciously judging against that. And so when you start to do this deep work, what ends up happening is when you're so deeply connected to your own body, you cannot look at another human being and not see their humanness. You cannot look at another human being and continue to have the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors. And I speak about this because this is what it means to be a deeply conscious leader is you start to see that they are you and you are them, no matter where they come from, no matter who they are. We are all here to have an individual experience that we take back to ourselves, our collective. We are source. We are source. And you also see the bigger picture that we came here to have experiences, to experience the contrast, the polarities, and that includes having people that are just awful in this world, that when they leave the body, they're not awful anymore. This also means because once we leave this physical body, now, one of the things that is talked about a lot, and it's interesting because some mediums that I follow are starting to have this realization too, the more they do dive into their own healing work, is we all are much bigger than this body. I do believe that spirits exist. But I don't believe that that spirit is the whole part of that being. I believe that parts of ourselves, if we are earthbound, get stuck behind, but our bigger soul is still transcended from this body. And we still go back and we still learn and we go home and we learn from our experiences and we grow from our experiences. And then we choose to do some of them again to have a bigger growth or whatever. But at the end of the day, we are really all source energy. Therefore, at the end of the day, we are love. And the reason why I say that is that's hard to hear when there's people doing really not great things in the world that are doing really, in the human world, what's considered evil, to look at them. And so as a conscious leader, we have a responsibility to dismantle all the human things that have caused harm to others. Our responsibility as healers, as leaders, is to gain empathy and compassion, to learn to identify in all of the behaviors and belief systems that we've created for ourselves where we're responsible, where we're causing harm, not only to others, but to ourselves with others, and how to heal that. It's so important that we just keep doing this work. So, reason why I'm sharing this today is because there are people in my life that maybe not aren't directly my life, but I witness that are connected to other people. And what's happening right now, and I'm going to actually speak on this in my second to last module of my online program, is that spiritual bypassing. And what I mean by that is there's people that are just doing a ton of plant medicine over and over again. They are doing a ton of coaching, healing. They're doing so many things. And I am a coach. And yes, I need to continue to do that for a business. And but I also really love doing it. And my whole job is to help you learn how to become so deeply, lovingly self-responsible that you learn how to lovingly heal and go inward and find your own inner knowledge so that you don't need me anymore. You don't need any outside source. Because all the things I've been channeling a lot lately, when I'm channeling with my partner, we're doing channeling sessions regularly, and a lot of interesting things are coming out. And one of the messages that we keep hearing that's a common in every channeling session is, even if you feel us around you, AKA the higher self collective, my guides, angels, we are also within you. You may feel our presence because we're having all individual experiences, but we're within you. And you keep looking outside of yourself for the answers and the healings that are within you. And so people are doing tons of plant medicine and not taking the time to integrate, and they're going into spiritual bypassing. They're going from one healer to the next healer to the next healer to the next healer. And I hope with them, not even hope, but I know with a lot of my clients, when they come to me, this is where it ends, because I ask of myself and my clients that they be radically, deeply self-responsible, and that they start looking within. They start learning how to regulate, how to self-resource, and how to tap into their own internal wisdom that's always been there, to stop looking outside of ourselves for what's always been inside. So when you are in a conscious leadership, in a compassionate leadership position, you're not there to tell them what to do. You're there as a being that's doing their own healing work, that is already healed enough. One of the things I want to actually just really drive home is, no matter where you are healed enough. You are healed enough for whatever you need to do right now. Is there always healing to be done? Sure. But you are enough right now. You are healed enough right now. And so any of the people that are coming to you, you're not whole and healed to a level, but you are maybe one or two steps ahead. And that's one thing I think that I know as a compassionate and caring leader, a more multi-dimensional leader, we start to realize that I'm not saying, hey, I'm the master and this is the only way. You're here to say, hey, man, I get it. I literally just stepped off that rock myself. And maybe your direction will be a little different than mine, But I do know if you step right here on this rock, that there'll be new opportunities opening for you. And then you get to decide which one you take. And so, understanding that we're all in this journey together, there will always be someone that's more advanced than me. There'll always be someone who's more advanced than you. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same road of soul growth and experiences and evolution and awakening. And so it makes us pretty darn equal. It makes it so that I am not better than anyone else. The only difference, like I've told a client before, is I am here to give you the tools for you to use that maybe no one taught you had. But now that you know they exist, it's up to you to use them. I'm not here to be your leader and your guide in the way of here, this is how you turn this is how you turn it, this is how you open it. No, my job is to say, hey, let's figure out how you turn it. Now you open it uniquely just for you. And then now you go do it. And I'll be here as your biggest cheerleader. I will hold the space for you. But unless you really sit and do that work, and when I say work, I really want to invite you to shift the meaning around that. Work doesn't have to be a physical thing. It is just a willingness to commit to showing up for yourself every day, even if it's just one teeny tiny step. And by doing that, we give that as an example to others and it inspires them. So just knowing that, yes, many times when we're out and we worry about what people are thinking of us, the truth is that person goes home and never thinks of us again. But in that moment, when we are out and about, we are an example to others. And it may not necessarily be that they see anything, but do they feel something? And so just know that no matter who you are, you're making a difference every time you walk through a room. And you're not unseen because even if nobody sees you physically, your energy, your soul is still present and they feel that, even if they don't realize it. And so creating positive change is being really committed to your own journey. It's being committed to doing the dedication for yourself. Last episode was about finding what your unique spirituality is. How can you meditate? If you're in this crazy, big, chaotic world, can you use mundane times to actually create a sacred practice? And the more you commit to that, the more you realize how you are connecting. So as a leader, and maybe you're not a leader. Maybe you don't see yourself as a leader. But if you are a mom or dad, if you are a coworker, if you're a student, if you're a classmate, guess what? Everyone's a leader. You know why? Because even if you want to always be the one that's following, somebody's looking up to you somewhere. Somebody's watching you somewhere, seeing what you do, either to see what not to do or what to do. So we all are in our own aspects. And the reason why we're all leaders is because we come here to have individual experiences to lead our own path into soul growth. So even if we're just leading ourselves, you're still a leader. You're still leading the way to yourself. So just clarifying that. The first and biggest thing I can say is this: we have been caught up in this busy mode. And so the more you can slow down, and if you're super slow where you've been kind of, let's be honest, rotting away a little bit in your bed or hiding in your room, then maybe you are being invited to speed up. Because that's what's happening with myself and my partner. We've been doing channeling and they've actually been inviting me to slow down. And what they meant by that, they really clarified it, is not slow down like stop doing things. But what I have a tendency to do is they called it actions that are requiring versus actions that are inspiring. And what they meant by that, and they actually clarified it even more, is when I do right now, I'm inspired. I'm inspired to make this episode. So I am doing right now what feels inspiring. And they said the more I slow down and only do that, and when I lose my energy, stop, rest, take a break, take care of myself, the more I will feel the energy to do more things that are inspiring. And in the past, what I was really good at is only doing things that I am requiring, what I am putting on myself. Nobody else tell me, but I think I'm required to do in order to get. So they were saying a lot like, if you want ABC, you think you have to do DEF to get it. So you're now forcing yourself to push through your low energy times and do these things that are required of you in order to get blah, blah, blah done. And the truth is that I'm not required because who's telling me I'm required? I am. I'm the one just doing all this crazy busy work where I'm running around and I actually get nothing accomplished. And so what ended up happening for those 2 months that I disappeared was I was doing so many things that were busy, busy, busy that I thought it was required of me to make a difference that I ended up getting actually nothing done. Suddenly, I wasn't writing any of my newsletters. I wasn't recording any podcast. I was just kind of existing in this stasis moment. And so, as I'm really integrating the channeled messages I'm receiving through my body, and they are integrating. It's really interesting how that's happening. The more I'm open to channeling, the more I re listen to them, the more I'm integrating this. I'm saying, okay, I feel inspired to do this. And now suddenly I have energy. I'm excited and I'm jumping on it. And this will ultimately create positive change in my life and for others because you're not going to ever know anything. And whether you want to listen to this, you don't want to, I mean, if you don't want to listen to it, you won't be listening to it, right? So I clearly have something to share, whether I believe it or not. The truth is, I do, because if I'm making a podcast and even if one person listens to it, I'm making a difference to somebody somewhere. And so I'm now inspired and excited because what I realized was I was stopping myself because I didn't trust myself that I wasn't anything other than a fraud, right? It's interesting because it's not an imposter syndrome. It was a generational belief system. I actually talked to myself in that mirror and I asked her, where did that come from? And they said, you're a great grandmother on your mother's side. And so something happened to her that made her feel like she was somehow a fraud, or maybe even what came to me was she was forced to behave in a certain way that was fraudulent to survive. That, oh, that just hit me so hard just now. This is why these podcasts are powerful because as a self-projected projector, as I talk things out, the truth comes out. Somewhere in that lineage, she had to pretend to be something else in order to survive and make it through life without being killed or dying or whatever was happening to her. I don't know because I don't actually know about my great grandmother on my mom's side. I only know about my grandmother. So that feeling of being a fraud carried through. And now it's so interesting, right? You're getting to hear it real time. I've been sitting with this morning, and the reality of it is, and now I'm ready to let that go. She did what she had to do to survive. She did what she had to do so that my grandmother could live, so that my mom could live, so I could be here. And in that, she beat herself up over it some way, somehow. And I know that because I feel it in my body. And if you don't notice this, what's so interesting right now is that epigenetics has really been doing a lot of research on this. And I was listening to this amazing podcast. Let me look it up really quick because I'm going to actually put it in my show notes. It is the Next Level Soul podcast. But he interviewed a man that is an Indigenous man in Canada who is a psychic medium. And he actually was talking about how in their belief systems and his actual lineage, they believe that whatever happens affects 7 generations back. And whatever you do to either continue or to heal whatever that was will affect 7 generations forward. Well, guess what? This is ancient indigenous people's belief systems, epigenetics, which used to be considered a pseudoscience, which is now being considered a real science, has proven that your genes contain at least 7 generations of DNA of your belief systems and woundings and traumas of your ancestors. And they have done tests where they do shifts and changes and heal trauma, and they do the DNA, and your DNA changes. And so does your descendants. So as I continue to do my deep healing work, I am seeing changes in my family, and they don't even know I'm doing this work. They're just changing. So my willingness to be the person in this lifetime that breaks the cycle for that blood lineage is healing my lineage 7 generations back, because it said he was even talking about how when you do that, you will heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. So the wounding lasts up to 7 generations, but the healing also goes back and boomerangs back the healing 7 generations. So you get to be the one who heals your ancestors who are no longer in body. Their soul gets to heal. How cool is that? And science is now catching up and proving all of these belief systems to be true. It's the coolest thing ever. This is why I love spirit and science combined. This is why I love what I do, where I have a very scientific mind and I've done a lot of psychology trainings and all that, but I also am deeply in beliefs of the mysticism, because it has both worked. And so this has a rippling effect, and it not only affects my ancestors and my descendants, and my brother and his family, and my cousins, and my aunts and uncles. It affects the people that are in my community that are around me. And for those who are not ready to do the healing work, these are the friends that have faded away. They're the ones that they haven't really faded away. They're just not resonating in my circle anymore. It's similar to when you play a piano and you play keys that blend beautifully, or you play keys that are contrasted and it's like a sharp, like, oh, almost hurts your ear out of tune kind of sound, right? It's still music, but it doesn't resonate together anymore. And you're probably finding that. And for those of you that are awakening and doing deep healing work on yourself, you're probably experiencing right now some pretty. I had this happen, so and so some of you I'm sure can relate, is when you've had a huge upgrade, I call it, or huge up leveling, and you had a big soul growth that you didn't even realize you did, like a quantum leap. You'll suddenly have friends that like almost like viciously or dramatically remove themselves from your life. Like they just like explode all over you, and then just go, and I'm done, and we're not friends anymore. And you're like, what just happened? But because I've been doing this journey by choice for so long, I can now see, go, oh wow, I just had an up leveling. I can see that. And that person is not ready for that. That's too much for their nervous system to go. They're not ready to heal yet. That's okay. I love them so much. But that was the only way they knew how to safely remove themselves from this new energy field. And so in those moments, instead of arguing with them or trying to bring them back, I just sit in ceremony. And my ceremony for me is just sitting still and seeing their face, and practicing just cutting gentle cords and sending them so much love and releasing them as a form of love, so that they can be free to be on their own journey and to do their own healing practices in their own time. So that is part of my showing up as a conscious leader. And a lot of times you're seeing in these movies and in these shows and even on these podcasts that they're like big things, right? There's big things, there's big awakenings, there's big. Just know every day that you wake up, every day you breathe, you are making a change. So understand that those tiny baby steps are just as important as the big steps. That actually, the more you allow yourself to take baby steps and pause and look back and celebrate how far you've come, the faster you will actually propel forward. So in slowness comes speed. And so what I mean by that, so yeah, so getting back to that, right? So in the channeling message, they told me to slow down. And what they meant was slow down, tune into your energy, do what inspires you. And when you run out of steam, stop, take a rest, go back to it. So I recorded a podcast last week, and then I took a couple days to edit and upload it. And that was great. And instead of waiting another week to record, I felt inspired. And so now here I am a couple days later recording another episode that will be scheduled to go out in another few days. That's fine. It's great. It feels so good. Now I'm excited about doing this a couple times a week. But instead of putting it as a scheduled thing I have to do, I'm just tuning in. And then as soon as I feel inspired, I just jump on my computer and do it. And so I'm going to do that as an experiment. And I invite you to do something like that too while we're on this journey together. Experiment when you feel inspired. And the reason why I'm inviting you this is because one of the things that I really do with clients is I'm now really focusing on teaching them all the tools they need to get embodied. So connect to your body, connect to what is coming up for you. And as soon as you feel inspired, what comes in and tries to knock you out of the game? Because I have to admit, I have up until now had so many instances where I am on a roll, I am making things happen, and something so simple to the average person comes up and it knocks me out of the game because I let it. I let it because then I went into all the things I have to do because I'm required to do them, because I have to do steps A, B, C, because that's what everyone says I'm supposed to do. But who's everyone? They're not me. They don't know how I work. They don't know how my energy flows. They don't know how I feel. They don't know my inner workings. Only I do. And so I, even in that, get to create a unique way of showing up in the world and setting my own example of saying, guess what? This is what I did, but don't do it like this. Do it your own way. Do it your own way. Play with that. Find what works for you and be uniquely you because that's what you came here to do. You came here to be uniquely you and to show up to the world as an individual. So that's all I want to share for now. What I'm going to invite you to do again, so because I kind of got sidetracked, you know me at this point, at least you're getting to know me, is when you get inspired, I invite you to become observer and see what comes up that tries to knock you out of the game. And then instead of judging yourself, see if you can take one baby step towards actually doing that inspired action. So, inspired action could look like, I just want to paint today. Then go paint today. And if you don't have anything to paint, maybe you go buy some watercolor or some colored pencils, something that's like if you're really on a budget, get something. You can go to Target, Walmart, and you can get all kinds of little art kits from the kids section. And let me tell you, my daughter, my oldest child, she is a professional artist. She has made the most vibrant, amazing, beautiful art pieces from Crayola watercolor. Okay, so that stuff, it works. It doesn't matter. You get to play with it and find out. You don't have to go to the art store. See, that's the thing, right? That's what takes you out of the game. Is suddenly you feel like, oh, I feel like I want to do some art today. And how you do that is now I have to go get a canvas. Wow, that canvas is $300. I can't afford that right now. Okay. Well, I need paint. Okay. Well, someone told me that acrylic's the best paint to get. Oh my God, that's $10 for that tiny little tube. Like that's a lot. Oh my gosh. What if I feel like I'm being inspired to create art? So grab a pen and paper or pencil and paper and just draw something. Draw circles, draw squares, draw circles and squares together. Scribble. Just do something that feels artistic to you. The way I express my art is I'm a vocalist. I was classically trained to sing opera as a teenager. So when the house is awake, I'll go around the house, start singing. And then when I start singing, I feel creative. And then I start baking. And then I start cooking. And then I start creating. And that's the way I do my art. My art is my creations of music, sound, movement, and in cooking and baking. And so my daughter is amazing at doing pen to paper, graphic design, all of those things. I'm not that level, but I have discovered when I get into creative mode, I'm pretty darn good at Canva. Who knew? And I've been able to create great things. Matter of fact, I created new art for my podcast. And I actually created that with AI and I put in what I wanted it to look like. And I kind of like how it turned out. So I'm excited. And maybe it's not professional level. I don't care what it is, though. It's mine and I created it. I literally created it. It was the thoughts in my head that got put down that created that image based on what I told AI to create. I think that's pretty cool. So learning where AI is my friend and then also being realistic about how to keep myself safe and protected without going into any kind of story or conspiracy theory, because that does not serve you or me. So when you find that you're inspired to do something and you're not sure how to do it, just do one tiny step. If you feel like suddenly you're supposed to be a coach, then Maybe you're not ready to be a coach, but maybe, and I'm just giving examples based on my own lived life, right? All of you are very different and you might have very different things that come up. So I invite you to look at that, but I can only give you examples of my own lived experiences. Like, and so it's not that it's limiting. It's just, this is my lived experiences, is when you get inspired to do something, whether it's go for a walk, breathe in fresh air, take a break, create, looking at a new career option. You don't have to suddenly just do it all right now. Take one baby step. Maybe just pull up online and see what you would have to do to enroll in school. Just start looking at the different schools. See if there's even training around it. Or look up and see who's doing that job and how they learn how to do it. Or go on YouTube and see how you can create art from everyday objects so you don't have to spend a penny, right? So one tiny step is just learning, and then you can act on it later. That's still inspired action. And so just looking at it, right? The ways that I manifest when I really want to do something is I decide what I want to do, and then I just keep actively pulling up different schools or trainings or YouTube videos, and I just really dive into the subject. And then when it's time, the resources, the opportunity, the time, and even the money will just suddenly show up for me to be in that program or to do in that lesson. Ooh, and as I'm telling you this, my ear just started ringing. And then it shows up and then it just flows so fast. And so, even in manifestation, it does not always happen quickly because you have to do your internal healing work and become the being that vibrates at the frequency that that desire is in order for you to be close to that desire. So, one of the things that gets left out in manifestation is that once you put out there what you really desire to have, you have to become the person who can receive that. You don't just get it. You have to do, sometimes what ends up happening is you don't get that, but you get opportunities to have these experiences that feel really uncomfortable and stretch you, but then they actually require you to heal and to do the soul growth work, and then you finally receive it. So, understanding the way that that really works, that it's really about becoming the being that vibrates at the frequency that you can actually be in that frequency. You can actually connect to it, be a part of it, and be in the frequency and flow of it. And so, if you're not there, you have to get there first in order to receive what you're asking for. So, just setting that out there is part of that, right? So, even in that, learning to practice tuning in. So, if you haven't done this today, I'm going to invite you to do this now. Take a moment, be in stillness. Put your hand on your heart. Inhale in your nose. Hold that. And as you exhale, exhale out your mouth. Let that go out as long as you can make it. Do that again. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. And one more time. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. Allow yourself to just feel your body. If you haven't heard or said it to yourself today, say, I love you to yourself. I am wishing you a beautiful day wherever you are in the world. Know that you are here on purpose and you matter. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.